Okay. I have exactly an hour from 2:30 or from 3:30, so we're gonna have to move fast. There's a lot in this discussion. So we're gonna start by step one is fire Stepanek. So we have to decide whether or not that's a good idea. What did Stepanek actually do, and how serious was the offense?
I have it pulled up here. He ordered or directed Carl Olson to go do repair. There's all kinds of situations that made it dangerous, and he should have been aware of, and it caused Olson to, I believe, get a second-degree burn, and he broke his arm. And I believe it says this is the third incident, and he's been talked to before. So,
right. So was it all of Stepanek's fault, or did Olson have any liability in that situation?
Olson is a contracted employee, isn't he?
I didn't see that. I can look.
I just wondered if he was an electrician from outside or something. I thought I read that. Maybe not.
I don't remember reading it, but it was a long thing, so I don't know. What's Olson?
I might have missed it. I think the individuals have to have some liability on themselves. Yeah.
Okay. What are the implications for workers, families, supervisors, and senior management if he is fired?
I believe it said he was a good worker, and he'd worked with the company a lot, so maybe he has an effect on public image. But we do know he has a family, that he's kind of connected with the business that way, and it seems like they want a culture that kind of supports families. So
yeah, one of the things that I noticed when I was reading about that was that Harris, who is asking for him to be fired, had said that what does he say? I don't take a vote to see who wants to operate safely. I do want people to take responsibility and be trained in what operating safely means. So I thought it was kind of interesting that he also mentions that he has a family, like this is a good guy, whatever, but he sounds like a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's not going to put up with it. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it as well.
In a way, I agree with him in the fact that this is a multiple case. That the supervisor has multiple injuries on his watch, and it just seems like, regardless of whether a person has family, if they're not operating safely, they, sometimes you have to make those decisions.
Yeah. All right. What message would firing Stepanek send? I'm not sure to who, but that's the question.
Okay.
I mean, it would.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're okay.
It's okay.
I feel like sometimes I speak too much in discussions, but
no, go ahead.
It is more of an authoritarian approach, but it would make an example of him. I'm not sure if that's the intention, but it would send the message that we're not going to, accept, people breaking these safety codes and disregarding even the law. So.
Yeah, I agree. Would it be fair to fire Stepanek considering how other supervisors treat safety issues?
I do think you have to have a standard. I mean, if this is what you're gonna do and you're stepping it up now, then yeah. But just because one manager wants to fire a supervisor doesn't necessarily make it fair all the way around. I think you have to have a standard in the company.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree. I have some things to say, but I don't know if I'm going to jump the gun. So,
you want to go ahead and say it?
It's about firing him. overall, the company has a really good safety. In the beginning of the case, it tells us that they're kind of the best of the best, and they're kind of looked at as an example of, safety, kind of like an industry leader. And I don't know, we could look at this guy, and he could have 3 injuries, but looking at things on average, it's like he could be a much better leader, than the average one. So, and I don't know if he's really disregarding. This is kind of one of those discussions you can have because we don't have all the information. It's like, has he been given training? What was he really told? And how much control of the situation did he have? And it seems the people above him, or maybe the managers kind of on his same level, felt that he didn't warn Olson, that he didn't act in a safe manner. So that's my
I
kind
think
of
training
thoughts.
is, you mentioned training, and that's what I was thinking of too, is I wonder how well he was trained in these safety measures before he actually, let Olson go out and do that. Hi, John. I don't know if you can hear us, but hi. Okay. Good points, Benjamin. I like those. Okay, so the second thing that we're supposed to do is split up into groups. And I think that if John can join us, we might try this. If not, we might not, because we're supposed to split into 3 groups. There's not enough of us to do that.
How do you do that on sorry.
And exactly. So I think that maybe what we'll do is we'll just take different sections and think about them on our own, or look through them on our own. So I'm just going to go across the window as I see it. I see Angela and Benjamin together. So I'm going to put you 2 together for group 1, and just you don't have to talk about it, just, or whatever, however you want to do it. You're going to compare exhibits 3 and 7 to answer the question, when safety improves, does productivity decrease? So exhibits 3 and 7, you're going to look at those and decide if, when safety improves, does productivity decrease? And then explain the relationship between safety and productivity. And then John and Shelley, if you could look at exhibit 5, figure out which injury numbers are improving and which are going up or down. So improving means injury numbers go down. And if they're going up, then that's bad. So look at exhibit 5, categorize the types of injuries that are improving compared with the types that are not, and then explain that to the team when it's time. And then I will look at exhibit 6 and look at sample injuries. So I will share this real quick. We all are looking at the same thing and we all know what we're doing. Everybody okay? Everybody's on board?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you guys see that little thing that I just shared?
Yeah.
Okay, so group 1 will be Angela and Benjamin, if you guys can do that section, and then group 2, Shelley, then group 3 will be me, and we'll just split for maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll talk about it again, okay? I'm going to put my microphone off because I'm going to move papers around. Just let me know when you're done. That would be great.
I don't like my table. It compares apples to oranges.
It's hard.
Sorry, I'm just doing a quick Excel spreadsheet to see if I can figure out. Some of it's comparing years and some of it's comparing 6 months, and then the last two columns are 2 months. So I'm ready if
I'm ready too.
Benjamin, oh, Benjamin just left. All right, let's give Benjamin just a second. He might come right back on. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, then I'm going to continue playing with my spreadsheet.
Go ahead.
Maybe they're not coming.
All right. Angela, you want to start? It says, let's see. So, compare exhibits 3 and 7. Answer the question, when safety improves, does productivity decrease?
So the answer to that, when I figured it out, it looks like productivity actually increased. So we went from, in 1988, it was 39.9 hours to produce the ton of aluminum or whatever. In 89, it was 36.6, 90 was 35.73, and then it changed to where it was broke up in 1991. So I just averaged that, and it still went down to 33.25, which just shows that as the safety increased, their productivity actually increased as well.
That's great. So both numbers went down. It says if both numbers go down, that's good. If either number is going up, it's bad. So
it's kind of interesting how they broke out January through August and then July. Then, anyway, it was just kind of a little bit different to have them break it out. But it looks like they had a higher, they did have higher incidence of injuries in a little bit in 90 and 91, but their productivity was it was on trend down anyway, and the injuries weren't significantly higher. They went from 4.66 in 89 to 5.51 in 90, or in some of the averages. So
great.
So anyway.
So it says, be prepared to explain the relationship between safety and productivity at Mission Valley. So So you're saying that it is increasing.
The productivity increased as their safety increased. They did both increase at the same time. So I don't know that they were the same rate, but definitely they increased. So.
Right. So that kind of goes against what they were saying about, a 10-minute safety procedure for a 5-second repair is a waste of time, but not necessarily according to those numbers.
Well, and even on the, reducing, they were concerned about that with reducing the miles per hour on the forklifts, from 15 to 4 or whatever. And it doesn't show that it slowed down their productivity at all. So.
Great. I assumed that would happen, but I wasn't sure if that was actually the point of all of that, having you guys do that. So that's good to know. Group 2 would be Shelley.
Okay.
Look at Exhibit 5 and figure out which injury numbers are improving and which are going up.
Okay, so the first thing I had to do was combine the 3 columns of Exhibit 5 that were all about 1991, because the others are comparing years. So it was hard to tell which, where we were trending. So the only, and then I averaged every year and then compared it to the recent year. Took an average of those 5 years, and every category they've gone down by 1991 compared to the average for 5 years. However, if you just compare from the previous year, from 1990 to 1991, there are some areas where they're going back up that are problematic. The area that's the atmospheric contributing condition that's causing industries has gone back up. We had that down to 13, and now we've jumped back up to 20, which is actually higher than both 1989 and 1990. And then we have down in the second area, which is a contributing action. Let's see, sorry, I need to figure out which column this is. I didn't get my headers on there. This is 16. So Under nullified safety device, that one has gone back up. We're still better than the first 3 years, but we're worse than 1990. And also in the used defective equipment category that's causing some injuries, that one's gone back up. Both of those are fairly limited of the change. It could just be an anomaly, but they have gone back up. Where I'm more concerned is down at the bottom of the chart. There's an improper position or inadequate protection, procedure deviation. Those have all gone back up by 6, 14, and 9 incidents. So clearly we're having some fallback on those areas as well.
So would you say overall they're going up or down? The injury number?
All they're going down.
Okay.
But in 4 category, one category, there's been no change. But the other than the
I hear you, Shelley.
not sure if John's trying to talk. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Shelley.
But I don't know if John
Okay.
is breaking it up or what, but I can hear you.
Yeah, overall, I think our results in 1991 we're doing slightly better
Okay.
than the previous years, but it's a lot closer to 50-50 than I think they want to see. It's probably, 60-40.
Okay. Secondly, it said to categorize the types of injuries that are improving that are compared with the types that are not. Were you able to figure out what types of injuries were not improving?
The area mostly are the only one under the contributing conditions is the atmospheric, which I'm not sure I totally understand that. It's weather conditions or things like that that might be outside their control.
Right.
But contributing actions are actually making more mistakes. That's where most of the areas where we're trending back up again have occurred.
Right.
So
all right.
People not using safety devices or not using effective equipment or not using the equipment correctly.
Okay. Glad you're back, Benjamin. We kind of talked about, Angela talked about your section. Did you have anything you'd like to add?
I didn't hear what was said, but I'm sorry about my internet. I don't know why it crashed.
I think John's having issues too, and I had issues today, so it just happened.
It was kind of general. I think we looked over Exhibit 3 and 7. It's as they've done. I don't know if it was training or what they did. They as the safety increased, their productivity increased.
That's what Angela found as well, and what she shared with us.
Yeah.
My exhibit was number 6, and it was a list of sample injuries looking for common themes and causes. So what I found was out of the 13 samples that they gave, there were 7 falling accidents, 3 burn accidents. The arms and feet were most affected, and they also had quite a few lacerations to the face. So, quite a few, 3, I think, lacerations to the face. So what can you learn about safety at Mission Valley from this list? My feeling is that, the other thing that it showed was a lot of, not equipment malfunction, but not using the equipment, or the equipment was hurting the people. So there may be some issue there, not with it malfunctioning, but with it not being used correctly. And so I would say that what you can learn from that is that there needs to be more training and more safety procedures for, or I'm trying to say, like, they need to wear steel-toed boots, like things like that need to be. You absolutely have to do that because there were a lot of foot injuries. So I thought that was kind of a given. You know, you got to wear steel-toed boots when you're around molten lava or whatever it is they're working with. So I know. Okay, so are we surprised by the results of our findings? Did we think that productivity would go down when or that productivity would go down when safety was increased?
I didn't. I expected that result. I'll be honest. I just feel like that when people take the time to make sure they're safe, then you don't have the plant shutdowns because of something that's happened and that kind of stuff. Because a lot of those big plants, if something happens, the whole plant shuts down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't surprised either because I think, you know, there's probably a million little things that don't get reported, unsafe conditions, like you stub your toe, you bump your head, you know, things like that. And all of that takes time to deal with. And if you're improving those kind of little small issues plus the big issues, activity is going to go up.
Yeah. And I just mentioned too, I think when Benjamin was gone, that the 10 minutes that it takes is worth it in the long run for not having an injury. So I was a little surprised that productivity would go up if it's that big of a difference, a 10-minute safety procedure for a 5-second job, but I'm glad to see that. Any other thoughts on that?
And I think that's probably an exaggeration, don't you think? The 10-minute safety procedure. That's people just being like, oh, this is going to take so much time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we always think that safety procedures or things like that are going to take longer. I always think that cleaning the toilet takes 30 minutes and it's actually a 5-second job. So I think it's just one of them.
I was going to, real quick, I was going to say I wasn't surprised, but I guess it was a little bit. I thought it was going to be about the same. I don't know how they measure their productivity, because if you're cutting corners, you might do things faster, and in certain aspects, you might be more productive. But you're cutting the corners or reducing other quality factors. Like maybe there's less waste in the company, or maybe there's less damaged products, or maybe it just like it looks cleaner overall. I mean, like little things like that maybe, impact things overall.
Yeah, that's true. It says groups 2 and 3, which would have been me and Shelley, should both notice that problems can be solved by spending money have mostly been solved. In these areas, safety has increased. The problems Mission Valley still has is people. The common injuries include mistakes made by people. So what type of problem do you think is easiest to solve? Ones that are expensive or ones that involve people's behavior?
Probably expensive.
Yeah.
It's easy to put gates on things. It's not so easy to get people to follow a procedure.
Mm-hmm. Are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. So lastly, past success versus future challenges. What has Mission Valley done in the past to improve its safety record so much that they have so few serious injuries compared with other similar companies? So what have they done in the past to improve it over other companies?
I think for one thing, they've made it a goal to be the standard of the industry. When you're working towards something, you are watching for it, you're making efforts for it, you're putting, things in place.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. They make it a priority, and they talk about it a lot. They remind their people a lot, and that all helps.
Well, and I also really liked that even though that they are so far beyond, their safety record is so much better than other companies in their same industry, that their goal is a zero injury workplace. So I think that's really
Right.
commendable, and shows that they do care about their employees and whether or not they're following the rules. What specific things have they done that are successful?
I think implementing like the drive sections, like where they mark the lanes where the vehicles drive by lowering that speed limit. I mean, those are things that should never have happened. The injury of the man that was killed, just because of an unmarked roadway.
Anything else specific?
It looks like they're one of the things, their training has been really successful. The operation without training thing went down. Their highest was 32 injuries in 1987, and they're down to 7. So that's drastically improved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do they need to do to move toward the rest of the way toward their goal of having zero workplace injuries?
They've got to somehow get their staff.
Yeah, I was going to say
What
the
was
same.
that?
Yeah, to participate.
Sorry, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angela.
I was just going to say the same thing that you were saying, Shelley. It's about getting your people to follow the rules. It's about whether it's some kind of a motivation of workplace safety or mandatory lockouts until you do this certain thing. Whatever it is, it's got to get the people on board, because it looks like most of what's happening still is employee error.
So this is not a question from the discussion. It's my own personal question. It makes me feel like maybe they should fire this guy then, because if their goal is to have zero workplace injuries and they know that it's a people issue and not an expense issue, maybe that's where they need to start, is by getting rid of people who won't follow the rules, even if they are a family man or a good guy.
I think you're right, and I hate to say that, because I'm not a proponent of getting rid of people for nothing, but I think you have to start taking that into account. And obviously we don't know the whole situation, whether or not it was actually his fault or it's just that he's being blamed because he's the supervisor. But I think at some point those managers do need to either the individuals who are getting hurt because they refuse to follow the safety, or maybe it is the supervisor.
Or maybe, yeah, and maybe they need to have some kind of leveled disciplinary action where, the first time something happens, the manager goes to some kind of training, and then the next time it's some kind of, a warning system or something. And then, by the third time, instead of feeling like it's out of the blue, to be fired for something so small like that, but feeling like, no, it's been a pattern that we need to act on. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I would say is they need to have some sort of system in place where participation, and also has some steps before you get to firing, that that you've been disciplined on this several times and it's coming, and so either get on board or get your resume ready.
Right. So what about in instances where the lady said she would not take off her wedding ring, because that is a safety hazard?
I think she should have choose whether or not she was going to work or whether she was going to take off that ring. I don't think it should be. I mean, I understand that people have their values, but if this is an issue for you, then this isn't the job for you. The safety has I mandatory across the board.
I agree with you.
I think I agree, but when you're dealing with people, I think it's good to look at the personal kind of motivations behind things. So maybe you could work with her and kind of help her see that maybe she could wear her ring as a necklace, put it around her neck, so she still has it with her, and she's still kind of keeping that commitment, kind of, that symbol, that representation, kind of close to her.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a personal choice, though, and something she needs to decide. That shouldn't come from management. Management should be able to just say no, and that be it.
Yeah, I've worked for several industry type companies, and every single one of them told the guys no neckties, the girls no necklaces in the shop. Yeah. That necklace getting caught. I mean, it's one thing to lose a finger; it's another thing to lose your head.
Yeah.
You know, if your necklace gets caught in the equipment, that's probably more dangerous.
It just depends on what their safety recommendations are, but yeah, I feel like she needs to follow that. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I don't think something that's a safety issue like that should be able to be, you know, on this floor, whichever department you're in, this is the standard. And if you refuse to meet that standard, then you don't work here. You know what I mean? Or you don't work in this department. Maybe she can transfer to the smelter doesn't have that requirement. But I think, you know, within that area, if it's a safety hazard, they just have to follow it.
Right, because it's not like if she gets injured on the job, the company's not still going to have liability for workman's comp because they told her to take off her ring. They're still going to have all of those issues, and let alone a moral obligation to try to protect their employees.
Yeah.
So one of the questions here is, how can you address a culture that's embedded in a strong community and history? Because we know that these people are tough. That's one of the requirements for the job, is to be tough. And they pride themselves on that. And so how do you address that culture of, I'm strong enough, I don't need these safety requirements, or I'm tough enough, I don't need them, and still get to your goal of 0 workplace injuries?
That's where firing people comes in. You know, I know that he has family and a long line of that, but that's where that changes. When you're working toward a goal of safety, and people refuse to change because of their values of being tough or whatever, that's when the culture changes, because you made a drastic move and he's no longer employed here.
Do you think there's anything the company can do to address the culture? Like maybe have, you know, employee games or something, or like once a year an employee kind of see who's tougher, kind of, so they kind of address that idea of, you know, being tough in that industry?
I think they could, they've got these different groups and they could compete, you know, for improvement. They could compete for, that would draw in that kind of competitive attitude. And I think they also need to make it personal. Like, for example, I live in Pittsburgh, and a few years ago, Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback of the Steelers, was injured in a motorcycle accident because he wasn't wearing a helmet. And I saw at the time, every time I saw a motorcycle, I saw people driving without a helmet. And I thought, everybody's so mad at Ben Roethlisberger, but he probably has, you know, $10 million in the bank. He's going to be fine if he doesn't play football ever again. What about your family?
Yeah.
But after that happened, I mean, I still see people driving without a helmet, but I'd say it's more like, you know, 50-50 now. A lot of people are wearing their helmets and stuff. So because it kind of brought it home on a personal level. So I think they could talk to these tough guys about what they're really risking here.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody loves their family. Everybody loves their kids. And, you know, they don't want to risk what happened to this guy where he's, you know, he lost life. You know,
yeah.
So they can
sometimes that's where it's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking along those lines. They could have like a safety presentation where all these things are outlined, and then have everybody, I mean, once you sign, you know, agree and sign on with a company, they can kind of change some things. But if they would sign a certificate and agree to these safety measures, it's kind of like self-imposed, and then everybody's in agreement. And then if you tell people, like, if, you know, their coworkers doing this and you know about it and you don't do something, you might be held, somewhat accountable. So it's kind of you're kind of encouraging and changing the culture, and you're kind of preventing the injuries too. It's one thing to be like, you know, slap something on the bathroom door. Here's the new rule, and then somebody gets caught, and you kick them out. Once that happens, it's a different thing to go about it. Like what we've been talking about.
Yeah, one of the other questions on here is it says, are there ways to involve community or family in the way that they change the culture and attitude about safety? And my first thought was, yeah, put pictures of their families everywhere. Like, that's part of their safety regulation, is to make sure that they see their family before they walk into someplace without their steel-toed boots or with their wedding ring on or something. I think that would maybe help. So we're supposed to talk about whether or not we always follow safety procedures. So do we always wear our seatbelts?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Do you avoid texting in dangerous places?
Not always.
Like texting and driving?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I do try, but I'm not good about it. Do you always cross at crosswalks? I am a horrible jaywalker. I do it all the time.
I have a crosswalk on my corner and I still don't go on it.
Y'all are the people that get me worried. Yesterday it was like 8 o'clock at night, and I was like driving, and it's kind of like a road that's leading onto the highway. Anyways, you can go like 55 on it, and there's people trying to cross over to IHOP, and they were walking like halfway in the road, and I was just like.
I live in a really rural area, and we have the crosswalk for the elementary kids, but it's out of my way to go to church and cross on it. So
But they were jaywalking.
Yep.
I know, but it's really a rural road,
I know. That's a hard one for me. I don't know. What about using a ladder instead of a chair?
Oh, I'm bad at that.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
Try to use a sturdy chair.
No wheels. One with wheels.
Totally count. It counts.
Oh.
And then the last one is, do we drive the speed limit? And I do not. I drive fast.
I do too.
Yeah.
I usually will drive like 5 over. I don't go more than that.
Yeah.
In my defense, in Pittsburgh, if you're not going 15 miles an over, you're going to get ran over. So I think it's more unsafe. It's amazing. It's like I think of Washington State now as a police state because you never see cops here on the road.
Yeah,
really.
They're all dealing with real crime.
Yeah, I live about an hour north of LA, and I'm used to driving in LA traffic a lot. So yeah, if you're not doing at least 10 to 15 over, and that's usually about 80 or 85, you're gonna get rear-ended for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, last thing, we have about 3 minutes. Linda's plan for 1992. It says go through each item on the list, which we don't have time for, but talk about each item. Which items will help get the company to its goal, which ones won't help, and what's missing. So Linda's plan for 1992, which is somewhere in my paperwork.
You're going to have to pull it up real quick.
So it's at the very end. It's a summary of safety department plans for 1992. It's 6 items. Monitor complete implementation of recommendations on falls. And for supervisors and lead operators, publish a bi-weekly newsletter on safety. Waste. I think newsletters just go in the trash.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Committee operations better in community. Establish safety recognition program. I do like that. Awards and dinner based on performance and improvement. Make it fun. Meet with superintendents on a monthly basis to review safety performance and improve the meetings and monthly reports.
I personally think I like that they're including train committee leaders at crew level. I just think that they need to involve the people. The lower they go in the totem pole, the more buy-in they have.
Agree. I think the ones that won't help much are obviously, I think that the biweekly newsletter is just kind of a throwaway. But
and it's not personal. You know, I think physical connection with people is what makes the difference. Anything that's on a paper thing, I don't think it's going to help.
Well, and again, maybe if they brought their families into it, you know, introduced a new employee in each newsletter so you kind of get to know who you're working with, I feel like you take better care of them. And so maybe that would help, you know, a community of camaraderie where they would take care of each other and that would help in their safety. I don't know, but it just seems kind of a waste, a newsletter. Thoughts about what would help? Or what won't help, I'm sorry.
I in the case it discussed how they were trying to stay on top of equipment repairs, and like they talked about some electrical parts that throw out a lot of voltage, and I think I'm sure it's not a major concern. They wouldn't let that happen, but if they had plans, you know, where they would replace things, because once things get damaged or out of repair, they tend to be more dangerous. So maybe they could organize a system of doing that. And I do agree it needs to be done on the lower level. I think it needs to be done on all levels. Like for the fellow who died, if all the departments were working together, they would have known that they've thrown things way out of whack with their floor plan. There's places where people can't hear things and can't see things. And so if everybody's working together, then they kind of know what's going on overall. Because if they focus on maybe one or two departments, you know, what they do can kind of negatively impact somebody else. So,
right.
I mean, I recognize that, you know, this death is probably really high on their mind, but I wonder why number one is only where they're only tracking and reporting and trying to improve on falls. I think they're a lot that once they have a system, I think it wouldn't be that hard to track all of their areas. And clearly, you know, they have some numbers here, you know. I wondered that. I thought they needed to.
A little odd. It's a little odd.
It seemed like falls was a major thing, though. That was what Tammy was reporting, was falls. There was a lot of falls.
Yeah, I just think.
Yeah, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 13 were fall related.
Okay.
That's a high number.
More than half, or almost half.
I wonder what this stage 3 training is, though. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not very specific, and so we don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to follow up with? Anything else that it didn't get to say or want to talk about?
Not on this, but hey, really fast, there's time changes coming on Sunday. So how is that going to affect everybody?
Anybody? I'm in time zone change. Anybody not in a time zone?
I'd make it work. I'm flexible.
So is everybody? Are we still going to be able to do the 3:30 thing?
I'm good.
3:30 Mountain Time works for me still.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how it affects John.
Yeah, it's going to be different on him. But it might be better for him.
It might be better if he doesn't change time zones. Yeah, might make it even earlier for him in the evening.
Yeah.
Okay. And we also haven't talked about the doohickey problem. I haven't had a chance to work on it, but we need to all kind of get on there and work on that.
It's due this week, right? Monday morning?
Monday morning.
Due Monday morning.
So
we had said we'd like to have it done by Saturday night so that we don't have to work on it on Sunday.
So who has it been assigned out for this time?
As far as
yeah, so email. I'll do it again. Did you not get that, Angela?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm not
No,
sure
it's
I
okay.
got.
Okay, I'll send another email today with a link to this video and a link to our Google document.
Okay.
But Angela, you're supposed to be working on problem number 2 from lesson 6, which is recruiting and hiring.
Well, I mean, like, I knew
So
that, but
problem 3
my
from
question,
lesson 7, which is career development and training.
who's putting it together? Like, who's going to be the one turning it in and all that? Have we picked somebody, or I'll do it this time? Is that all right?
Okay.
Like the final editor.
Yeah, like I just want to make sure that it flows and everything's all good. Is that okay?
Okay.
Right.
All right, I will do that one this time.
Should we
You're gonna
decide
take
on
care
the
of that,
key
Angela?
issue so that you know where you're going?
Well, let's still go in on and contribute to that document. I was just thinking like editing and that kind of stuff, and I'll try to email you guys and if there's a problem. Is that okay?
I
Yeah.
think Shelly took care of it last time, so if you want to do it this time, it's good with me.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I'll do it this time, and then who's leading next week? Is it my turn, or I can't remember?
Not me.
You're done.
I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll lead next week.
Okay.
But you still want me to set up the meeting?
Yes, please. I am not good at that.
I'll set it up and then you can lead. Perfect.
Okay. So I will everybody
Okay.
get your stuff in by Saturday evening so that I can edit it.
Okay.
And if
So
anybody,
Angela, you're gonna lead on lesson 9, right?
Yep.
At 3:30 Mountain Time.
Yep.
I'm gonna contribute so that you can get that done Saturday night.
Okay, perfect.
You know what we didn't do is we didn't pick a key issue for all of us to kind of talk about at the end.
That's true.
That's what I thought we needed to decide.
Sorry. I missed it. So what do you
I thought we either go positive this time and talk about career development and training, or we go negative and talk about all the harassment issues.
Did you ever
Seems
hear
like
back?
it would be nice. I did, yeah. He said basically it's up to us, whatever we want to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I figure we just went with what we have up on the Google Docs right now and not try to change anything at the last minute.
Okay. Anybody have a preference on career development or harassment?
I don't have a preference. We haven't. Shelly, John, and I are supposed to work on the harassment section, so if we pick that as a key issue soon.
Let's just see which one gets developed the best, and then go from there. How about that?
Okay, and you can mark up the Google document. There's ways to make comments, or just put it right in the document, and then we'll delete it before we submit or whatever.
Okay, let's do that. Let's just see how well we develop each of those, and then take what we feel like is the best.
Possibly the harassment, or what was the other one?
Career development.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it on there so we have that to look at. Okay.
I already did recruiting and hiring. So.
Are we all good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to see you all again.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah. See you next week. Bye.
Have a good